For me, a very interesting discovery in the last year was the word spirit, because I realized that what spirit actually means is an operating system for an autonomous robot. And when the word was invented, people needed this word. But they didn't have robots that they built themselves yet. The only autonomous robots that were known were people, animals, plants, ecosystems, cities, and so on. And they all had spirits. And it makes sense to say that a plant is an operating system, right? If you pinch the plant in one area, then it's going to have repercussions throughout the plant. Everything in the plant is in some sense connected into some global aesthetics, like in other organisms. An organism is not a collection of cells, it's a function that tells cells how to behave. And this function is not implemented as some kind of supernatural thing, like some morphogenetic field. It is an emergent result of the interactions of each cell with each other cell. So it's basically a description of what the plant is doing in terms of macro states.
Yeah.
And the microstates, the physical implementation, are too many of them to describe them. So the software that we use to describe what the plant is doing, the spirit of the plant, is the software, the operating system of the plant, right? This is a way in which we, the observers, make sense of the plant.
Yes.
And the same is true for people. So people have spirits, which is their operating system in a way, right? And there's aspects of that operating system that relate to how your body functions, and others how you socially interact, how you interact with yourself, and so on. And we make models of that spirit. And we think it's a loaded term because it's from a pre-scientific age. But it took the scientific age a long time to rediscover a term that is pretty much the same thing. And I suspect that the differences that we still see between the old word and the new word are translation errors that crept in over the centuries.
Do you mean the same old traditional idea of a spirit? Or do you mean...
I try to find out what people mean by spirit. When people say spirituality in the US, it usually refers to the phantom limb that they develop in the absence of culture. And a culture is, in some sense, you could say, the spirit of a society that is long game. A thing that becomes self-aware at a level above the individuals, where you say, if we don't do the following things, then the grandchildren of our children will not have nothing to eat.
Yes.
So if you take this long scope where you try to maximize the length of the game that you are playing as a species, you realize that you're part of a larger thing that you cannot fully control. You probably need to submit to the ecosphere instead of trying to completely control it. Right? There needs to be a certain level at which we can exist as a species if we want to endure. And our culture is not sustaining this anymore. We basically made this bet with the Industrial Revolution that we can control everything. And the modernist societies, with basically unfettered growth, led to a situation in which we depend on the ability to control the entire planet. And since we are not able to do that, as it seems, this culture will die. And we realize that it doesn't have a future, right? We called our children Generation Z. That's not a very optimistic thing to do.